Welcome to the Sustainable Success Show, where we share real-world ideas, strategies, and systems to help you build success that lasts in business and life. Each episode delivers practical insights you can apply immediately without burnout, chaos, or short-term fixes that don't scale. At the foundation is emotional intelligence and effective communication, how you lead yourself and how you connect with others across personalities, generations, and cultures, because that's where trust, engagement, and performance are created. I'm Christopher Salem, your host, and this is where sustainable success becomes your competitive advantage. Hi, everybody. Hope everyone's having a great week. We are so excited that this new format that we launched in January of 2026 has been an extreme hit. As you all know that have been with us here at Sustainable Success, we were an audio-based show for almost 9 years when we started back in May of 2017. We decided to go over to a new format, shortening our time with our show from an hour to now about 30 minutes, a little over here and there. But nonetheless, we've gotten rave reviews because of you. And if you are a new listener, again, we also want to encourage you to check out our old format when we used to be an audio-based show where we had hour-long content in terms of the subject matter experts we had on each and every week. And you can check that out anywhere on Spotify, Apple, as well as now we're on YouTube with the video portion, and of course, on our Facebook page at Sustainable Success 2017. Check us out as we've covered so many great guests over the years, and we have close to over 500 episodes under our belt. So there's a wealth of content that can help serve you and your business to the next level. Today's show is being brought to you today again by Alumni Direct. Alumni Direct is a social media community platform dedicated to bringing alumni together from all different generational types and an opportunity to meet new people for the first time. Now, it is a membership program, taking out all the noise out of social media. You get to generate genuine and authentic relationships with the people you choose to interact with. If you'd like some more information about Alumni Direct, check them out at alumnidirect.com. That's alumnidirect.com. Well, we are excited today. We got a great guest, a subject matter expert that is going to be on sharing a lot of great insights from personal experience. And he has coached, I can't even tell you, I'm going to leave it up to him. He has coached many, many professionals like yourself over the years. We're going to be talking about the 5 reasons why businesses fail to scale. Yes, but again, we want you to see this on a positive note, not a negative note. There could be some things that you think that you're doing correctly, but could be getting in your way. Well, you're going to learn about that today. We're going to have Trevor McGregor on. He is a world-class high-performance master coach and real estate investor who has spent more than 2 decades transforming lives and businesses of clients around the globe with over 45,000. There you go. One-to-one coaching sessions to his name. Trevor is recognized as one of the most trusted and sought-out strategic advisors in the industry. He has coached and mentored Fortune 500 executives, doctors, attorneys, elite real estate investors, entrepreneurs, and even Olympic athletes, and also has the pleasure of working with and for the Tony Robbins for half a decade as one of his top platinum coaches. Trevor's mission is simple: to help people scale their business, make more money, and achieve unparalleled levels of success and time freedom faster than they've ever thought possible. His unique blend of real-world investing experience, elite coaching methodologies, and deep mindset mastery has positioned him as a transformational catalyst for high performers who have committed to taking their business and their lives to a whole new level. Please welcome to the show, Coach Trevor McGregor. Trevor, how you doing today?
Oh, Chris, that was wonderful. Thank you for, sharing all of that. I'm doing great. I am so blessed and grateful to be here with you. I love your show. I love the new format. I've actually caught many episodes of what you're up to, and you are doing so many great things for the listener. So happy to be here.
We are so excited. And before we dive into the topic, we always like to get a little background about you, your foundation, what led you up to what you're doing, helping so many business professionals and businesses like real estate professionals, attorneys, and so on. What was that foundation for you that led you up to bring that experience and that passion that you've helped so many?
Well, thank you so much. And it's an interesting story because I grew up middle class, very, 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 happy childhood. was really into sports. I thought I'd be an NHL hockey player because I'm from Canada. You might hear that in my voice. And just like any Canadian kid, you want to be in the NHL. And I had the speed, but I didn't have the size. So I knew that wasn't going to work out, Chris. So I traded in my skates for my textbooks, went and studied business in college and university, then went to work in hospitality in a corporate company. And I think just like many other listeners, you graduate college, you go to work in business or in corporate or something. And, I enjoyed doing that because it was really around people. It was really about growing. And really around the time I was 30, the owners of that company came to me and they said, Trevor, we really like you here. We're going to expand. We want you to invest in our expansion plan. And I thought, wow, I'm 30. This is my chance to really get ahead and make some money and become a business owner instead of just a W-2 employee. And so what did I do? Well, I took all of my savings. I took all of my 401k and cashed it in. And I even convinced my own parents to take out a second six-figure mortgage on the family home.
Wow.
And they loved me and they believed in me and they wanted me to succeed. And I put all this stuff into this expansion plan. And for the first little while, it went great until around 2001, right around the time those planes hit the towers. We were expanding way too fast. And I'll never forget the day my partner came into the office and he said, you know what, we're bleeding cash. We're expanding way too fast. We may not be able to hang on. And I felt really, really, really nervous because ultimately, to make a long story short, we went under and I lost all of that money that I had, all of it gone forever. And there I was in my early 30s. I was not only broke, I gained a bunch of weight and it caused a huge rift in my marriage. And I didn't even know what I was going to do because I felt so low. It was the lowest point of my life. And so what does anyone do when, you're at that depth of despair? Well, you seek guidance. And thank God for me, I found a coach. And that coach said to me, Trevor, what's happened to you is unfortunate, but you're still a young man. You got to get up, you got to dust yourself off, and you got to find a way to keep on keeping on. And I said, I know, but I don't know how I'm going to pay back these loans. And he said one thing that changed my life forever. He said, have you ever thought of investing in real estate? And I said, real estate? I don't know anything about real estate. And he said, well, you can use other people's money, buy a property, fix it up, and either refi it, tenant it or sell it. And my back was up against the wall. And so, this guy was successful and I took his advice and I found some other money from other family and friends and bought my first little condo. And that was a really good experience. So I took the money out of that and bought my first duplex. And that's when I discovered what cash flow was. Leveraged that to buy my first fourplex. And I went on and on and on. And in just 2.5 years, not only did I have a beautiful real estate portfolio, but I made enough money to pay back all of those failed loans,
wow.
Even my parents.
Yeah.
And it's really at that point that other people would come to me and they'd say, Trevor, you're doing all of this. Can you show me your blueprint? How are you buying these properties? And I'd say, well, buy me a drink. I'll sit down with you and show you what I was doing. And ultimately, Chris, that's when the coaching bug bit for me.
Yeah.
That I love pouring into other people. I loved helping other people. And it was my son's soccer coach and my other son's baseball coach that came to me and I showed them the blueprint and they went out and started to buy rental properties themselves. And then as they had success, more people would come to them and they'd say, go see Trevor. And so to make a long story short, and I'll put a pin in it to let you reflect on that, I went from being at the very, very bottom to really reinventing myself through coaching and through doing the mindset work and through real estate to, a totally different place. So I'll put a pin in it there.
I love the story is so powerful, Trevor. And, you could probably look back and say, well, at the time that happened, it was like, God, what am I going to do? My life is over. But sometimes, things like that have to happen to really wake us up for that next opportunity that is really your purpose. And if it wasn't for that, you may have never got into real estate and be where you're at today, helping so many other people do what's important to them.
That's exactly it. It's very similar to you and some of the guests that I've heard on your awesome show is sometimes adversity brings with it the seed of opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's really where I'll pick up the story again, because at that moment, I really, fell in love with coaching and I really had this unique opportunity to go and work with and for the man, the myth, the legend, Tony Robbins. And I'm telling you, that was epic because not just anybody can become a Robbins coach. You have to go to all the events.
Oh,
you have to have a certain background. You have to have a certain heart set and mindset. But ultimately, I went to work with and for Tony for over half a decade and became one of his top master platinum coaches, where I coached a lot of real estate investors because I was one. I coached a lot of Fortune 500 executives, a lot of business owners, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of doctors and dentists and attorneys. But I even had the beautiful privilege of coaching Olympic athletes that were in the Winter Olympics that have won gold medals.
Yeah.
And so as I really fell in love with coaching and really fell in love with business, and I was still growing my real estate portfolio on the side, my wife and I started a 7-figure publishing company. I'm married, I've got 3 boys, so we travel the world extensively. I started to really become what I call a pattern recognition specialist. And a pattern recognition specialist
I've
is
never
someone
heard
that
that
sees,
term, but I love it. I love it.
yeah, it's really what allows people to achieve phenomenal levels of success as they climb the mountain and what allows other people to just stay stuck or frustrated. And I was fascinated by it. And so fast forward to today, I worked for Tony for half a decade. Then I went and opened my own coaching practice called Trevor McGregor International. And as you mentioned in the bio, and you'll hear my voice is raspy, Chris, but I've now done over 45,000 coaching sessions over the last 2 decades. And that's a lot. And it's literally my jam. I get up every day, and I do this work because I believe that there's nothing better than helping your fellow man or woman live their best life.
I agree 100%. And I love how you've set this as a foundation from a personal perspective, personal experience that people can relate and understand. There are people going to be watching this show that are either business owners already in business, maybe someone that's in transition, that maybe a business went under, they're looking to start another business, somebody that's maybe thinking about going into a business. What can you share from what about what we're going to talk about today, the 5 reasons why businesses fail to scale? Some people can start off really well, and then somewhere along the line, they just become stagnant, stuck, or they end up regressing. And what is happening there that's common to most businesses, and what can they do to make that pivot or shift?
Well, it's such a great question. And again, this is my jam. So really what I will say before I speak about the 5 reasons why people fail to scale is I learned from my coach and my mentor, Tony Robbins. And after, getting to peek behind the curtain and see what allows this man to do what he does is, really around the concept and his quote that success is 80% psychology and 20% mechanics or what you do. And if we really think about that, as business owners, as entrepreneurs, starting a business or joining a partnership or something like that, it's really true that success is 80% your beliefs, your values, and your rules and how you think about business. And then you got to go out there and you got to do the right things in the right order at the right time and with the right people. So if the listener goes, okay, well, tell me more about that. Well, again, after being a business owner, owning the publishing company, we have retreat companies, we do masterminds, I do coaching, we do real estate, we do a lot. I've really identified that there are only 5 reasons why people fail to scale. And if we really take a look at each of those independently, it's almost where the listener and you can say, all right, well, let's start with number 1 and rate where they're at. Then we go to 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. It'll make more sense as I go. And this won't surprise you, Chris, given the work that you've done and, your history and your past. But the number 1 thing that I always kick it off with is limiting beliefs.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Limiting beliefs. Business is going to be too hard, or what if I lose money, or what if I lose other people's money, or what if the market shifts, or what if this and that. And I'm telling you, people oftentimes get stuck in terms of how they're even thinking about what they're going to do before they even start it. So what we like to do is we like to go in and start taking a look at, well, what are your beliefs? What are your values? What are your rules? We call that BVR. And then we start to really unpack anything that doesn't support you and reinstall a new belief or a new value or new rule that does support you in moving forward. So before I go to number 2, do you agree that you might see that a lot in terms of what you do?
I absolutely do. I absolutely do. I don't care, where you are. Self-limiting beliefs are real. They're forged during our child development years. They're not just a result of traumatic experiences, but they can be very subtle. And these are the things that can creep into our subconscious that impact how we react versus respond to situations and the people beyond our control, or taking calculated risks or making swift decisions, all of the above. So absolutely, I'm in alignment 100% with that. Yeah.
You bet. So that really does take us to number 2, because once we start working on your limiting beliefs, the second thing that prevents people from scaling, Chris, is what I call a lack of a strategic plan.
Yeah.
A lack of a strategic plan. Most people spend more time planning their trip to Mexico a year than their business or their
Oh
life.
yeah.
And
They
so what
wing it.
we
They're
do is we
throwing
like
mud
to
at the
sit
wall.
down. That's it. Is we like to take a look at, well, where do you want to go in the short term? That might be the next, couple of years. Where do you want to go in the long term? That's really the next 5 to 10 years. And then we also go one step further, which is what's the vision you have ultimately for your business and your life? So when we take a look at the short term, the midterm, and the long term, we can now start reverse engineering what it's going to take for you to start moving in that direction. But you never ever want to do that without first checking in with your beliefs. Does that resonate with you?
Oh, absolutely. I think a plan is so important. And they say now a lot of times, like, millennials and Gen Z, they haven't been brought up or groomed to, put together plans. It's kind of like just learn as you go and do what you, but I'm a firm believer that without a plan, and you have nothing to really see, you can't operate from here. That's where the limiting beliefs get you. I got to be able to see it and be able to look at it from a third party perspective. So I know that to see if I'm on track or not.
And that's exactly it. And so once we start working on your limiting beliefs, once we start working on helping you with the plan, the third one's a big one, Chris. And that's what I simply call number three, a lack of systems for support.
Oh yeah.
A lack of systems for support. We can get rid of your beliefs and create a plan, but if you're not creating the right systems and processes, if you're not putting people in the right seats on the bus, if you're not leveraging AI, in the way it's coming in these days, you're fooling yourself.
Absolutely.
So again, when you think of number three, a business can't be sustainable, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, like the name of the podcast, unless you've got systems that support that journey. How would you speak to that?
I 100% agree because, if a business is going to be successful, especially for the business owner, you have to work on your business, not just in it. And you have to know how to delegate appropriately and strategically, to offset your weaknesses so you can leverage your strengths more. And like you said, there are more tools and resources than ever, even compared to when you and I came into the workforce, back in the, late 80s, early 90s. We didn't have all this stuff. There's so many things that we can have things do for us so that we could free up our time to work on the things that really align with our strengths, and will take our business to the next level. I totally agree with that. CRM systems or whatever process
Yeah.
are going to streamline your business processes. Absolutely.
Well, I love that you say that. I'll stack one more thing before we go to number four, and that is we all need to discover what's called our ZOG, our ZOG, and that is your zone of genius. I mean, what are you really good at, and what should you be doing
Yeah.
versus what should you be outsourcing or delegating, as you would say? And I think that people try to do so much themselves when they really, should really, do what Dr. Ben Hardy calls finding your who's and your super who's. So if we unpack that, and I'm working with Dr. Ben Hardy directly right now, and it's been amazing because he talks about you're only one or two people away from really optimizing and maximizing your business.
Yeah.
Because if you're working in your zone of genius and you bring in somebody that's really good over here, that's when sparks fly and magic happens. But how does that land with you?
I totally agree. And that's where, when you look at building an effective business, why oftentimes people, they might understand on a surface level what joint alliance partnerships are, whether if that's somebody actually working in your company or is a partner maybe on a 1099. It's so important because if I can leverage what they do best and I can just manage that from my end, I don't have to be micromanaging them, just knowing that they're keeping on top of what they have to do that complements what I'm doing in my business and anybody else that's doing what they're doing in their role and duties. Now I got through my strategic plan that you talked about, I'm heading in the right direction and I'm able to offset potential, setbacks that are inevitable, but now I can now respond to it rather than react to it.
I love it. I love it. We're singing from the same song sheet.
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
I love what you're saying.
So
This is gold, what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, it is. And so the listener can really identify, maybe they've got some wobbles in their limiting belief, or they need to work on their plan, or they need to work on the systems. But let's go to number 4 and 5 because they're super important as well. Where number 4, Chris, is what I call poor time management. Poor time management. I mean, we've all got what we call the rule of 168. We've all got 168 hours a week to work with. Now, we sleep for some of those, we eat, we pay the bills, we play with the kids, But really, what are you doing with the rest of your time? And are you working on what's urgent or are you working on what's important? Because most people make everything urgent instead of really, getting crystal clear on what they should be doing, right? And so when we really think about time management, it's not just, living in the past, but stepping into the present to create what I call the predictable future.
Absolutely.
And that's where, some of my magic and secret sauce come in, to where we really optimize and maximize and get people optimizing for something specific, where they cut out the noise and go more signal. How does that land with you?
Oh, it lands perfect. And that is a topic that oftentimes is either undervalued or overlooked, Trevor. And I'm so glad you brought it up, because people, when they even think everything's important, really what they're doing is just managing distractions, or that means they're not delegating enough, or they're getting caught up in things that are not even relevant to their business or personal success. And it's a form of procrastination, because they don't value your time. So if you don't value your time, how can you possibly prioritize it to know what to delegate and what to focus on, what you're good at, and what other areas that you can delegate to, that can do the other things that are important and urgent, but freeing up your time to the things that are the must priorities. Like, I guess the Eisenhower matrix, the old Eisenhower matrix is still relevant to this day.
It is. Yeah. I'm glad that you and I know about that. I bet some of the newer listeners might not, but you can use Google and check it out.
Yeah.
So once we start, identifying the limiting beliefs, the lack of strategic plan, the lack of systems for support, the poor time management, there's only one left, but it's got 3 parts to it, Chris. So I call it 5A, 5B, and 5C. And here it is. Because 5A is simply what I call a lack of execution, right? We can do all those things that precede it, but if you're not out there taking what I call intelligent and inspired action, you're fooling yourself. Yeah. And intelligent means smart, and inspired is really not because you have to, but because you get to, right? So that's 5A. 5B is really a lack of measuring your progress. I mean, are you on track? Are you off track? Do you have KPIs and benchmarks that you're measuring against, right? And that's ultimately the same thing of when we get in those airplanes. Those airplanes are flying from one place to another, but they don't just fly there. They've got satellites in the sky that make sure that it's on track. And if it's off track, the computer course corrects the airplane so it lands in the city we want to land, right? So that's 5B. And then 5C is a big one. And you know what it is. It's really a lack of accountability. A lack of accountability. I mean, if you don't have somebody holding your feet to the fire, we know today that the path of least resistance kicks in, and you find yourself watching Netflix or doom scrolling on your phone. But that's not what high performers do. High performers execute, they measure their progress, and they have somebody keeping them accountable, like a coach, like an accountability partner, like somebody from, a focus group, or somebody that is ultimately really, really engaged and enrolled and compelled with who you are, what you're doing, but why you're doing it. Because when the why is big enough and you start to unpack all 5 of those things that cause people to stay stuck, you can also reverse engineer them and use them to start skyrocketing your success.
I love what you just said, because and not only accountability is so important, but even measurement. So many business owners don't measure or measure enough. This is why when you talked about delegation earlier, having the right, having a really good bookkeeper or having a really good CPA or accountant, because you may not be able to read a profit and loss statement, but you don't have to be an expert at it. It's knowing what to take from it, what they share with you, so you know where you are and where you want to be. And then you can be alert to anything that could be getting in the way, and what can you be doing in making those changes, and getting an outside help from somebody like you that can maybe be able to hone in on what are the KPIs that are most important to their business, unlike what they thought it was, that they should be now tracking daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever, to keep them on track. So I love that. And the accountability is the glue that makes everything stick.
Yeah, brilliant, Chris. And I'll give you an example of it. I've got this one client named Joe from Cincinnati. His name is Joe Fairless, and he's a real estate investor. And when he came to me back in the day, this goes back quite a ways, he owned 4 single-family homes. He was a single-family real estate investor. And every time a tenant would move out, he'd have to repaint it or refloor it or fix something, and it wouldn't cash flow. And I said, Joe, I think you're built for more than just single-family homes. Have you ever thought of investing in something bigger, like an apartment building? And ultimately, he said, well, I don't know much about it. And I said, well, let's change your belief system. Let's create a plan. Let's create systems that support that plan and schedule time to do it. and really execute on it, hold you accountable and, measure it. Well, fast forward to today, Chris. Joe went from owning 4 single family homes to now having $2.7 billion in assets under management in apartment buildings.
That's awesome.
And all of that happened within about 9 years. So it doesn't mean that the listener or you or I wants to have billions of dollars, but it's proof in the pudding that when somebody is not just interested and not even committed, but what I call defiantly committed, there's always a way to scale. How does that land with you?
Scale. And like you said, it doesn't mean that you have to be striving to make billions of dollars in your business or have billions of dollars under asset management. It could be whatever, even if it's at a small level. If it's allowing you to fulfill your purpose, live that purpose, and really enjoy your life in business or your life in business. That's all that matters. So it's all relevant to what's in the eye of the beholder. I love it. Love it.
You betcha.
Wow. I hope you listeners, this is powerful information, and we highly encourage you, everybody, to go back and listen to this show again, because again, there are a lot of great insights that Trevor shared in those 5 areas that are so important, and oftentimes we may be aware of them, but we overlook them for what their real value is. So Trevor, with those 5 areas, like, what would you recommend as we get near the end of the show? What would be like that first step that you would recommend that you shared those 5 areas? Where did they start with the first one? Is there a certain sequence? What would be that first step that you would recommend?
Well, thank you. It's such a powerful question, Chris. And it's really starting, to do what I call taking a personal inventory. It's almost like if you took all of those things and you really said on a scale of 1 to 10, like if you looked in the mirror and were honest with yourself, how hard are you working on your personal growth? How hard are you working on any limiting beliefs? And score that on a scale of 1 to 10. Then move on to your strategic plan. And some people might score themselves a 3 or a 5 or a 7. And the number isn't good or bad or right or wrong, but it's an absolute opportunity to say, if the number's lower, how could I absolutely move up that rating? Same thing with systems, same thing with time management, and be honest, right? And then it comes down to execution and having KPIs and having somebody to keep you accountable. But if you do that personal inventory, and for the listener out there that's really crushing all of those, congratulations to you. And for the ones that know that they might need a little bit of help, when would now be a good time to find a coach? When would now be a good time to join a mastermind? When would now be a good time to, get some help? Because it's not weak. And I think that sometimes, when we look at today's entrepreneur business owner, Chris, they're drowning in tactics. They're time starved. They're trapped by their business, and they don't even know what they're optimizing for anymore. It's almost like the inside of the jar can't read the outside of the label. Yeah. Whereas a coach, a teacher, a mentor, a partner, a facilitator can really help you and become that sounding board to really turn what we call turning decades into days. It shouldn't take you 10 years to figure out these 5 things. It should be a quick inventory, and then you should seek guidance. And ultimately, there's lots of podcasts and books and seminars and coaches out there. Now, not all of them are created equal, but like I said, for the committed, there's always a way. How does that land with you?
It is so true. And that's why I want to make this transition, why people should be getting to know you, Trevor, and contact you. First of all, before we do that, I want to thank you personally for taking time out of your schedule to be with us here today. Powerful insights, made it very succinct in following the 5 areas that we got to address. What is the best way that everybody that's listening here, those that will be listening on demand, how can they get in touch with you, in contact? What are you up to, and anything that you'd like to provide them in terms of where now they can now gather some due diligence to maybe start working with a high performance coach like yourself?
Well, thank you very much. And before I give the contact info, I've got a little gift for you and the listener. And I love giving because the secret to living is giving. And what I'd love to do is, just because you've poured into this podcast, I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes, you've committed to it for so many years, and now you've even changed the format to bring it to the viewer in an even more enhanced way. I want to share something that I rarely share with people. And it's really my private podcast called my Rich Beyond Belief audio series. And Chris, it's 8 mini recordings of the best of the best of the best coaching frameworks, tools, and methodologies that I use with my high-paying clients. And I'm going to give it to you and the listener for free. And all you have to do to get it delivered to your inbox is go to trevormcgregor.com/sustainable. So again, it's trevormcgregor.com/sustainable. It's available to you and the listener right now. And if you head over there, you can literally download it to your desktop or your iPhone or your Android and listen to it when you're working out, or maybe you're at the gym, or maybe you're driving the kids to some sports. But I'm telling you, you will pick up so many more nuggets by just listening to that. So that's my, offer for you and the listener. And again, if anyone wants to find out more about how a coaching framework could support them with either myself or one of the members of my coaching team, again, go to trevormcgregor.com. You can read a little bit more about what we offer, all of the different packages that are available. And there are some awesome testimonials that you can kind of see, how our clients have gotten tremendous results. And then from there, there's also a button where you can apply for a coaching discovery call. And that's an opportunity for us to get on the phone for roughly 30 to 45 minutes to really dive into what's working in your business, what's not working in your business. And then we start to unpack, what we could be doing to move you forward. And if we feel that we're a good fit for you, we'll certainly share all the details and how we can get that done.
Thank you so much. And we highly encourage everyone to take Trevor on that offer. All those links will also be in the show notes, everybody. So that way you'll be able to click on that link and reach out to Trevor, directly. And for any reason you reach out to us here at chris@sustainablesuccess.net, we'll make sure that we redirect you to Trevor for that offer, that special offer with Sustainable at the end. And of course, at the website where you can get more insight to their services and what they provide high performers and business owners, real estate investors alike. We'll make sure that all again is in the show notes. Trevor, thank you so much again for being here with us today.
Thank you so much, Chris, and keep up the great work.
Absolutely will do so. And thank you. And listeners, we want to thank you each and every week joining us here at Sustainable Success. Again, we are committed to bringing in subject matter experts like Trevor each and every week to help elevate you and your business to the next level. If you would like to see future content that we have not covered, which I find it hard to believe we've covered a lot of content over the years, but nonetheless, if we haven't, and when you would like to see it on a future show, reach out to our team here at chris@sustainablesuccess.net, and we will check to see what we could do for a future episode to cover that particular area. Till then, everybody, have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next week here at the usual time, Fridays here at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Have a great day, everyone, and take care.